Welcome back to our 17th Emerging Growth Conference, everyone. I'm Anna Berry. A gentle reminder, please, attendees, submit your questions for specific presenters through this webinar module, like we have next, Pressure Biosciences, Inc. It trades on the OTCQB under the symbol PBIO and is a leader in the development and sale of innovative, broadly enabling pressure-based solutions for the worldwide life sciences and many other industries. Today, we have its president and CEO, Richard Schumacher. Welcome back, Richard.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much.
All right, we look forward to hearing your presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and appreciate everybody joining us today. But before I begin, I want to remind everybody that some of what I say may be considered forward-looking statements. So please, as always, do your homework, do your diligence before thinking about investing in our company or, in fact, in any company. So Pressure Biosciences, we are a developer and seller of very innovative instruments, consumables, and specialty testing services to the worldwide pharmaceutical, nutraceutical, food and beverage, cosmetics, and agriculture fields. What's innovative about our technology is that it all is based upon the use of very high pressure. And we talk about high pressure, we're talking very high pressure. The slide that's up now will show you what we're talking about. When we think about pressure, we think about the pressures perhaps in our car tire, 30 to 35 PSI. Espresso machines are at about 100 PSI. If you think about a vise, think about putting something in a vise and cranking it very tight. That's about 500 PSI. But when you're getting into high pressure, you're talking about pressures like at the bottom of the deepest part of the ocean, 7 miles down in the Marianas Trench. At the bottom of the deepest part of the ocean, it's about 16,500 pounds per square inch. That's high pressure. We sell instruments that utilize Mother Nature. We utilize pressure. Pressure is an amazing force in nature. It moves at the speed of sound. It can be turned on and off like a light switch. And so, it can modulate or temper or work to control things in the laboratory that we currently use temperature, like heat and cold, and pH chemicals to modulate. But we can do it with just pressure. And moving at the speed of sound, it can be instantaneous, and we can turn it off very quickly and go back to what we call normal or equilibrium. So if you look at the slide, the Barocycler 2320 is our workhorse instrument. It has a pressure chamber in it and a computer that is driven by that software in the computer. The pressure chamber, it can actually be filled with water, and that water can be compressed up to, believe it or not, 45,000 pounds per square inch. It's very safe, because we're compressing water. Water doesn't compress very well at all. If we're at the Marianas Trench, 7 miles down, that water is compressed maybe 4 or 5%. So if anything goes wrong, there's a kill switch and the pressure will just stop and maybe something will fizz out of the back port. So it's a very safe way of using pressure because we're compressing water. We put samples that we want to modulate in test tubes that go inside of the chamber and that are in the water. So we can go anywhere from 500 PSI up to 45,000 PSI. We have 350 of these instruments all over the world, primarily in labs that are doing proteomic or protein research. All the way to the right is our new technology, Ultra Shear technology. That instrument we're looking for, we're looking forward to releasing that instrument either by the end of this year or by 2021 or by the beginning of next year, 2022. More about Ultra Shear technology in just a minute. So we have 3 technology platforms. We have 29 issued patents that protect us and allow us to use these 3 technology platforms. The first one, the major one, the one we've been using for quite some time now, is pressure cycling technology, or PCT. 15 patents cover us in pressure cycling technology. As I mentioned earlier, 350 instruments are placed around the world in 225 different customer sites. And the sites are some of the top proteomic and genomic laboratories in the world, some of the top of pharma and biotech companies, government agencies are using this. Again, they're using pressure to control molecules in test tubes as they're looking for new discoveries, as they're looking to develop new diagnostics, as they're looking to develop new vaccines and therapeutics. They're using pressure rather than heat, cold, and chemicals break open cells, to make cells move faster or slower, to stop or speed up the enzymes and the enzyme reactions that are inside those cells. So many things that can be done in the lab historically for centuries using temperature and chemicals can now be done using pressure. The second technology we have is called BaroFold. Baro stands for pressure, fold for folding. Many new drugs are protein-based. Without going into the science too much, proteins are what we call peptides folded over each other, and they have to be folded in a very, very, very specific manner for that protein to work. And if it's not folded exactly right, it won't work. In fact, it can hurt an individual, a person, an animal. And so therefore, BaroFold uses pressure to fix these problems, to unfold misfolded proteins and refold them. So the potential there is working with companies that are developing protein-based drugs to help them get to market, because as they make that protein in the lab, the protein may become misfolded. It happens. And if it does, perhaps our technology can help them by unfolding and refolding that protein. And if that's true, that company will need us for the rest of the life of that drug when it gets on the market, because we'll be part of the quality control in the manufacturing process of making sure that the protein is folded properly before it's released to the market. The third technology is Shear technology. Shear has 6 patents issued now. We expect more. I should mention there are 8 issued patents in our BaroFold technology. We'll talk about Shear, which is very exciting to us in just a few minutes. Just a quick look at the instruments we have on the market. The main one is this Barocycler 2320 Extreme, 350 around the world. We have 10 or 12 of them in multiple companies and multiple laboratories, cancer institutes, virology testing labs, things like that. And then again, this is a schematic of what we hope to have out soon in our Shear technology, our BaroShear K45. Our customers are who's who around the world. I won't go into them other than to say that we have over 225 customers, and it's hard to mention a pharmaceutical or biotechnology company that's in proteomics that isn't using our product. This is just a quick schematic of what our main instrument, our benchtop instrument, the 2320 Extreme, looks like. And the nice thing about it is it demands consumables. So we sell both the instrument and the consumables. There is a computer, as I mentioned, that drives the instrument. And on the right is a small pressure chamber. All of the samples that are being investigated, whether they be viruses or bacteria or cells, cancer, normal cells, etc., are put in very special tubes. In fact, they're so special that we filed a patent for them 4 years ago, and a patent has been issued in a number of countries, including the U.S. So this technology, not only do we have patents on the instrument and the process, but we have patents now on the main consumable that's being used all over the world to be used inside of this instrument. That's pressure cycling technology, because we cycle pressure. We turn it on and off. We squeeze cells and we squeeze other things by turning pressure on and off and squeezing them like you squeeze a sponge. The second technology I mentioned is BaroFold. And again, the main thing here is that we are working with companies all over the world. We now have 6 active companies. We've done no advertising yet. We've just started this 2 years ago, and we have 6 companies that have come to us saying, we have a problem with a protein drug that we're developing. It is being misfolded. It is sticking to itself or aggregating. We understand that pressure might be able to help, and it might be able to help. And so we're working with these 6 companies right now, and they range from startup, well-funded startup companies to some of the larger companies in the world, household names. Shear technology. Shear combines very high pressure and intense shearing or cutting forces. And its primary use right now is to process emulsions into what we call nano emulsions. Emulsions are where you have oil and water. We understand the idiom, they don't mix. Well, we need them to mix. Many new drugs are oil-based, and we as human beings and our pets are all water-based, and therefore we don't absorb the active ingredient out of the oil very well. That active ingredient could be a vitamin, an antioxidant, it could be a drug that we need, but it's encased in oil. We need to make that oil as water-soluble as possible so that it can be transported throughout the body and that it can be absorbed and utilized by the body. And how do we make water-soluble oil-based nanoemulsions? We do it using ultra shear, combining very, very high pressure with intense shearing forces. We literally break the oil droplet down into millions of nano-sized oil droplets. And what we've proven is that the active ingredient in the oil drop doesn't get modified, doesn't get changed. But what happens, it's now, instead of one big glob of oil, it's now in millions of small oil droplets that are easily broken apart, easily absorbed, absorbing the active ingredient inside the oil droplet, easily transported throughout the body. So it's become a very well accepted fact now that when you have an emulsion, and you're giving that emulsion, it might be a drug, it might be a pharmaceutical, it might be a nutraceutical, perhaps CBD oil that you want to make sure it gets absorbed as well as possible. The way to go is to turn that oil into a nano emulsion so that the size is so small that the concoction actually becomes clear, as you're going to see in just a few minutes, but most importantly, it becomes much more water soluble and therefore what we call bioavailable. So a little bit more later about emulsions. Here's actually a slide on oil and water emulsion. We know when we put them together, they don't mix well. If you think about your raspberry or vinaigrette, and before you put on salad, you shake it like crazy, and it goes into solution for just a few seconds, and then it settles out. Milk is an emulsion. Mini meat creams are emulsions, as we can see here. Paints are emulsion. If you let them sit for time, in a matter of seconds, minutes, hours, or days, they'll separate out into the constituents. And how can we get this so that they don't separate out? Again, turning it into a nano emulsion, making the oil drops into tiny little nano-sized droplets. And we do that using our process called ultra shear technology, combining very high pressures that we don't know anybody in the world that can go to other than us. Very high pressures, 45,000 to 60,000 pounds per square inch, and allowing that material to leave the pressure chamber and to go through a shearing device that we have patented now in many countries, and that cuts those oil molecules, those oil drops down into tiny little oil droplets. Here's a picture of a normal emulsion on the left side. You can see we say it's around 200 nm, that's nanometers. So you can see how opaque it is looking. The same material after put through ultra shear technology is on the right. That is the same exact material, except we've broken the oil down to very small 50 nanometer particles. And it's so small that it's actually transparent. Light goes through it. So you know you have a very good quality nano emulsion when it's transparent. So on the left side, you can see a conventional emulsion, what size it is. It's usually about 200 nanometers. On the right side, you can see our ultra shear technology processed nano emulsion. And it results in suspensions of oil particles that contain the active ingredient. In this case, it's CBD, at a level of about 40 nanometers per droplet. So they're very small. They get transported and they're easily broken apart and absorbed, and the active ingredient absorbed out of the material. So we increase absorption, we increase bioavailability, and we've also increased stability. We had a press release not too long ago talking about 14 months of stability. Once you make a product like the one on the right, you want it to look like that for as long as possible. We were quite impressed, quite happy that we were able to get to a year. That was our goal. Then we went to 14 months, and that was 2 months ago. So we're now at 16 months, and this is what the product looks like 16 months after we made our nano emulsion. So nano emulsions are important because they allow for better solubility, better bioavailability, and better stability. Another big advantage of our system, we're generating data now. We're working with our friends and colleagues at Ohio State University, is that we believe the torturous process we put the emulsion through to turn it into a nano emulsion is going to most likely kill and activate, destroy any pathogen that might be in there. So if there's mold in there, if there are viruses or bacteria in there, spores, we expect to inactivate or kill whatever pathogen is in there. So imagine putting milk through the system and having milk that can sit on a shelf for 6 months or longer. That I mention that because that's where we got our initial funding. Our initial funding came from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, a $1 million grant, and the request was that we prove that ultra shear technology could process milk and turn it into a very stable, shelf stable for as many as 6 months. And imagine being able to have that available and shipping into disaster sites. But the main thing is having it taste and have the texture and the look of milk. There is long-term stable milk available, like Parmalat today, in some parts of the world, except it doesn't taste, look, or smell like milk. But we feel that our product will, in fact, do that. Here we had another press release recently about Astaxanthin, the world's most active and powerful antioxidant. Astaxanthin is something that is being sold now. There are 6 to 8 major manufacturers of astaxanthin, sold as a supplement, but mainly sold as an emulsion. And so people taking astaxanthin are not being able to absorb as much astaxanthin as we want them to be able to. And so we've nano-emulsified astaxanthin. We put the news out about 3-4 weeks ago, and we've been able to turn it into an emulsion. If you look on the right, a nano-emulsion, so that it will stay, it'll be stable, it'll be far more absorbent, far more bioavailable. So I'm very, very happy with the work that we've done with astaxanthin. In fact, we've had most of the astaxanthin companies called us after the press release. Several of them we've signed contracts with, and we're working with them now to see about perhaps including ultra shear technology in the near future into their processing. Oil and water don't mix, we're told. I said that earlier. The top was an experiment we did early on, taking a so-called water-soluble, therefore more bioavailable CBD mixture and putting it into a beaker of water, and you can see what happens. If it's water-soluble, it should dissipate and disappear. In the top, we purchased the water-soluble, and all it did was coagulate out, come out like toothpaste once it hit water. So it isn't water-soluble. So you got to question what's on the market if it's even called water-soluble. Has it been ultra shear treated or not? If it's ultra shear treated, then you'll see it. The bottom, you'll see that it goes into water and it disappears. It dissipates because it's water-soluble. We're not depending on chemicals like some do on the top, and then as soon as you dilute it out, it just precipitates out. We are turning that emulsion into a nano-emulsion so we can scale it. You can put it into as much water, as little water as you want, and it should disappear, and it will disappear. So what's the market potential for ultra shear technology across the board? There's food and beverage. Think about all the foods and all the beverages, particularly the liquid foods and the beverages that could be that could benefit from ultra shear technology. You could have room temperature. You could store things and ship things at room temperature. But more importantly, those that contain an enhancement, those that contain a vitamin, an antioxidant, or contain another active ingredient will be much better absorbed, and the material should be much more stable when it's a nano emulsion. Pharmaceuticals, vaccines are emulsions, so there's a big market for us in the vaccine and pharmaceutical area. Agrochemicals, we've talked about. We as a company are acquiring the assets of an agrochemical concern. We're developing our own agrochemicals. Many pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers are oil-based. When we nano-emulsify them, we should be putting less and less on and getting better effects. Cosmetics, lubricants, paints, all of these areas are areas that we're looking at as a home for ultra shear technology. We've had a number of calls from a number of different agencies. I won't go into this. You can go on our website. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started, this is my 4th publicly traded company. Combined at their highs, all 4 publicly traded had a combined market cap of over $1 billion. So it's not my first rodeo, and I'm surrounded by some amazing, smart, hardworking, knowledgeable people. Dr. Ting is our head of engineering out of MIT. He's been with us since 2006. Dr. Lazarev is our chief science officer, also here since 2006. John Hollister just joined us, but we're very blessed to have him because he's been CEO of several companies and he's had big company experience. at Amgen and GlaxoSmithKline, and he's also run smaller companies like you see, like one of the first CBD companies. So we're very lucky to have these people. Board is terrific. Board led by Jeff Peterson, a chemical engineer out of MIT. So it's great to have a chairman of the board who really understands and cares about the product. Recent accomplishments. I won't go into them in much detail because they're out there, but we had a terrific second quarter. We had a terrific first quarter. They're not just terrific against what we did last year during the pandemic year, but they're terrific in the last 3 years. We had one of the strongest quarters, I think the second strongest quarter we've ever had in the second quarter of this year. We expect that to continue. We formed a consortium with Ohio State University, incredible food group there, incredible food and beverage group there in their College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Science. So we work with Dr. Bala and many of his team and his colleagues on trying to get better exposure. And this consortium will be inviting some of the top food and beverage companies in the world to come visit Ohio State later this year. Once we set up the prototype, the industrial scale prototype, that will be shipping, we think, in a few weeks to Ohio State. And we'll be inviting them to come and run their product and let them see the power of nanoemulsification by UltraShear technology. We work with Leica Microsystems, one of the top optical companies in the world. They've been around for over 100 years. They're a Danaher company. We have 4 patents that were recently awarded and several other things that have happened recently that are absolutely terrific. We had a press release out on August 12th. We formed PBI Agrochem, sorry. We're getting into the agrochemical business because it really needs to have nanoemulsification of the products. They need to be eco-friendly, they need to be green, but they need to work. And we think we can do all of that with our technology. We'll be purchasing, we're working on the purchasing of the assets of an agrochem line, of an eco-friendly green agrochem line. We'll add to that our own capabilities in this field. And believe it or not, we've already received an order for $1 million. We mentioned that we think some of that $1 million will be shipped in Q3, which we're still in, and the rest of it will be shipped in Q4. So for the second half of this year, we see revenue increasing significantly over last year and over any year we've ever had with the addition of our agrochem. We had a news release about our numbers, our financials on August 16th. And again, this shows that in the first half of the year, we did more than 2 times what we did in the first half of last year. Again, last year was a pandemic year, and we had a very poor year, but we did more than 2 times that. And the second half of this year, if we compare it to last year, 700,000, we think we've given guidance that we believe that we could do at least 3 times that. We believe that the second half of this year could be by far the biggest a part of our business ever in 2 quarters. We think we could break $2 million, and we think we could do even more because not only the core products sales are rising, but also because of the agrochem business that we've already got one big order, and we expect other orders to come in the coming weeks. We had a news release today. Today, we talked about an addition to our business plan. Our business plan is to get the UltraShear technology instrument, the BioShear, out into the market by the end of this year, or at the latest at the beginning of next year, 2022. This is going to be under a license, a lease, and a royalty model where we will lease the instrument for a monthly fee. There'll be consumables, but we're asking for a piece of the action. If we help someone grow and bring in millions of dollars of new business because of the ability to nanoemulsify their product and make it better, we expect that we should be able to have some of that too for us through a royalty, a minimum royalty. And we've run this by a number of people, and they're all for it. You know, we're all in this together with our customers. So the change is that we've decided that we're not going to be able to supply the number of instruments that we think we're going to be asked for in the beginning of next year. We do know that a number of people we talked to have even said we're not big enough, or we don't have the space for your instrument. Could you set up a tolling site where we could send material there and have them process it for us. And so we've talked to several groups, a half a dozen groups, and we've chosen two, and one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. We are going to go into the demo and tolling processing manner. We are going to set these up over the coming months so that the first instruments that come off the assembly line, so to speak, will be going to our demo and toll processing centers. They will be GMP capability of having everything done under GMP, good manufacturing practices. They'll be on the East and the West Coast. They are knowledgeable people, and we're very excited that we'll be able to set this up and have it ready in the very near future. So excited about that. At this point, I'm going to turn it back to Anna and say that the last thing I'd say is I have a plaque at home my wife and I like that says, come live with me. The best is yet to come. I'm about to say, come consider investing with us. The best is about to come.
Thank you, Richard. Great updates. We do have tons of questions for you, but we are out of time. I'm going to get in one, possibly two questions for you, though. We have a question from CEO Plumtree Consulting, Gary Zwetschgenbaum. He asks, tell us more about the demo and tolling sites that you announced earlier today. Exactly where are these needed, and how will they impact early revenue from UST?
Well, we're definitely gonna set one up on the West Coast, most likely in California, and one on the East Coast. We have two sites two groups we're talking about. The reason they're needed is that there are a number of groups that we've talked to, Anna, that need a nanoemulsification. They need ultra shear technology. They do not have the ability to set it up in-house. They need to be able to send it outside. So I think there's a tremendous amount of business. We gave an example in today's press release of an example of a company, Safer Medical of Montana, where they have tested it. They've sent our material. We've nanoemulsified it. We sent it back. And the CEO, George Atkinson, said, you know, this is so phenomenal. I tried it on myself, my sore knees. He's a Vietnam vet. He's doing things for veterans. And he wants the best product available. He said, literally, if you were on the market today, I'd give you an order for 10,000 vials of this material. So we're working very hard so that we can get George and others the product they need in the coming months.
Wow, Richard. Well, it's always great to hear your updates, and we really look forward to you joining us again on this conference. Great technology you have and fantastic presentation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anna. Really appreciate it.
All right, everyone, stay with us. We've got more exciting companies coming up. There's going to be a little black screen as we transition, but we'll be right back.